Hey everybody, it's Emily at ARG Schooling, and today we're going to be talking about winter releases in 2025 that are on my radar, and maybe you would like to have them on your radar too. So I do this kind of video a couple times a year where I just talk about new releases I'm excited about for the next couple of months. So since it's December, we're going to look at winter in 2025. So I'm looking at new releases that are coming out in January, February, and March. So let's just get in because this is going to be a long one. So I've got my laptop here so that I can pull everything up, and basically I'm going to just tell you the synopsis of a bunch of things. Some of them I know enough about to chat, but some I don't. So let's start in January. So the first couple of books are coming out on the 7th of January. The first one I want to talk about is one that I've read the entirety of this series, and of course I'm going to read the next one, and that is the newest Wayward children's book, Adrift in Currents Clean and Clear. I don't even know what this one's about, honestly. I'm not sure who the main character is that we're following. I do think this is a magical portal world book, because like every other book in this series, you either at the school and you're on some kind of a quest kind of a situation, or you're in somebody's experience in their world. And I think this is a world book. I just looked it up and it says it follows Nadia. So I don't know what this is going to be, but I'm very excited to read it. Okay, also out on the 7th is a book that caught my eye based on the title and the cover. It's called Mother of Rome. This is by Lauren J.A. Baer, and I have never read this author before. I don't really know anything about this. I don't plan on purchasing this book. I'm going to try to get this through Libby or the library or something. But I'm intrigued because this is a story based on the Romulus and Remus myth. So I think this is going to follow their mother and how these two twins are the founders of Rome. I don't know. Something along that line, I think. But I'm here for it. I love ancient Rome. I love reading stories based on mythology, so this sounded interesting. Then there are a whole lot of things coming out on January 14th. The first one I want to talk about is All the Love Under the Vast Sky. This is a collection of stories in verse. I think this is edited by Kip Wilson. That's what caught my eye because that is an author that I've read and enjoyed in the past. And this is a collection of 12 stories in verse by a whole bunch of different authors. Some of them are authors that I have read and enjoyed before, like Alexandra Alessandri, Melanie Crowder, Margarita Engel. So I am super curious about this. It just says love can be many things, all-consuming, fleeting, vengeful, selfless, toxic, uplifting, and always a core part of the teen experience that leaves an indelible mark. This enchanting genre-crossing anthology delivers something for every reader with unique characters, global settings, and a dazzling mix of myth, historical, speculative, and contemporary fiction. So if you enjoy stories in verse, this sounds promising. Then maybe one of my most anticipated books of the year is also out on the 14th, and that is Grady Hendrix's newest book, Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. I've never read the synopsis for this, and I don't think I want to do it now either. I just know that this is a book about girls in a home, for wayward teen mothers, I think. That sort of situation in the 70s. So, if Grady Hendrix writes it, I'm going to read it. So, I am very much looking forward to this. Next, I want to talk about Truth, Lies, and the Questions in Between. This is by L.M. Elliott, and I believe I have the ARC for this through NetGalley. This is a historical fiction YA novel. It is set in the 1960s, I think. It says, as a presidency unravels and the fight for women's rights intensifies, a teen girl's future will be determined by her willingness to seek the truth in this stunning work of historical fiction, perfect for fans of Monica Hesse and Malinda Lo. I am a fan of both of those authors, and so this sounded really intriguing to me. I also really like the cover. It's just very striking. I don't always like covers with people on them like that, but for whatever reason, this one like really jumped out at me. This is following a character named Patty Appleton. She's one of the Senate's first female congressional pages, not only paving the way for other politically minded girls, but with a front row seat to debates dividing the nation, especially around women's rights and roles. So this sounds really exciting and like very timely, and I don't know, I just think it's going to be really good. I'm hoping to pick this up in the next little bit actually, because I have the ARC, so I'm hoping to read it very soon. Another book that I have an ARC for that I really need to hurry up and read is The Queen's Spade. This is by Sarah Rowley, and honestly, this cover really speaks to me. I got really excited when I saw the cover, and then even more excited when I realized that this was a historical thriller. It says, in this riveting historical thriller inspired by true life events, the Count of Monte Cristo meets Bridgerton as revenge, romance, and twisted secrets take center stage in Victorian England's royal court when Sally, a kidnapped African princess and goddaughter to Queen Victoria, plots her way to take down the monarchy that has stolen her from her homeland. Tell me no more. That is literally all I need to want to read this. But I mean, that plus a gorgeous cover, can't wait to read this. Also out on the 14th is this book, which is stunningly beautiful. I'm really tempted. I've been trying to prevent myself from pre-ordering all of the things because I am out of shelf space, and I'm trying really hard to only buy books that are by authors that I know I've read and will definitely love, or that, like, you know, I've already read and I want to add to my shelves. Well, this book is so pretty though. I really want it. This is Babylonia. It's by Costanza Casati, which is an author I've never read. But it's so pretty. This one is another ancient history mythology kind of a setting story, and I really want it. It says, from the author of the best-selling Clytemnestra comes another intoxicating excursion into ancient history, painting the brutal and captivating empire of gods and men and the one queen destined to rule them all. Set in Babylon, I think. It says it's across the centuries becoming the embodiment of lust, excess, and dissolute power that ruled ancient Assyria. The reason this is really just like screaming to me is that there are so few books set in this time and place. And so when I see one, I'm like, oh, I need it. So I'm like really sitting on my hands to not hit the pre-order now button, but like I really want it. It's so pretty. Another book that is out on the 14th, like when I tell you that there are so many books out on this date, oh my gosh. Okay, this is Honeysuckle and Bone by Tricia Tobias. I think this is another YA, like historical thriller. I don't know if it's historical, but it's a thriller. It says, on the run from her own dark secrets, a teen girl becomes the nanny for a prestigious family on their Jamaican estate, where she quickly discovers even paradise may be. So this is set in Jamaica. It says, Karina Marshall is looking to reinvent herself, and what better place to do it than Jamaica, her mother's alluring homeland, when she conveniently has access to an au pair gig for the wealthy and powerful Hall family. After months of being the target of vicious rumors and hate online, Karina might have found everything she wants at the luxurious Black Bead House, a world of mango trees, tropical breezes, and glamorous parties, and a place she can disappear. Yeah, so this is atmospheric and spooky. It's a young adult novel following an imperfect yet courageous teen as she seeks to remake herself in the homeland she always idealized, discovering that new beginnings don't always come easy. So I'm really intrigued by this one. It sounds like it could be really good. Okay, and then the last book out on the 14th is a nonfiction. It's called Outraged, Why We Fight About Morality and Politics and How to Find Common Ground. I haven't hit the pre-order on this one yet, but I am super tempted to because I think this would be really great to add to our homeschooling somewhere. I don't know where this will fit in. I have too many things juggling as it is. But like I really want to read this, and I feel like it'll be a great like read and discuss with my daughter. Maybe I'll even do something with this for Build Your Library. I don't know yet. It says a groundbreaking new perspective on the moral mind that rewrites our understanding of where moral judgments come from and how we can overcome the feelings of outrage that so often divide us. So this just sounds like it's timely and potentially something important. I know it's blurred by like Adam Grant. So like I'm really curious. And then on the 20th of January, we have Death of the Author by Nnedi Okorafor, who is an author that I really love. So I'm very curious about this. This is, I believe, a full-length novel, because I know a lot of her books are novellas. This is a full-length novel. And the thing that really jumped out at me when I saw the synopsis for it was that there was a blurb by George R.R. Martin that says it is her best work yet about fame and family, culture and change, the power of story, the writer's life, and robots. This one has it all. Yes. And it says, in this exhilarating tale by New York Times bestseller and award-winning author Nnedi Okorafor, a disabled Nigerian-American woman pens a wildly successful sci-fi novel, but as her fame rises, she loses control of the narrative, a surprisingly cutting yet heartfelt drama about art and love, identity and connection, and ultimately, what makes us human. This is a story unlike anything you've read before. Tell me no more. I want to read it. I love her writing. I think her world building is amazing. So I'm super curious to read something by her that is set in our world. So I'm excited to pick this up. I have in fact pre-ordered this one. I pre-ordered this ages ago. The minute I heard about it, I was so excited. Okay, then out on January 21st, we have Scattergood by H.M. Bowman. This is a middle grade historical that is set in a rural Iowa town in 1941. 12-year-old Peggy's quiet life is turned upside down by the refugee arrivals, first love, and a heartbreaking diagnosis. Says, growing up a farm girl, Peggy's life has never been particularly exciting, but a lot changes in 1941. Her friend Jo starts acting strange around her, the Quaker hostel nearby reopens to house Jewish refugees from Europe, including a handsome boy named Gunther, and a troubled professor of nothing. And her cousin and best friend Delia is diagnosed with leukemia and doesn't even know it. So this is a coming-of-age novel set during World War II, but in America, and I'm really curious about this one. I have a good feeling about it, so I'm hoping to get myself a copy of that to read. And then also out on the 21st, we have Danilo Was Here, and this is by Tamika Burgess. And it caught my eye because it's a coming-of-age story about a young boy who's fighting to save his family and his dreams in the aftermath of the U.S. military invasion of Panama. Perfect for fans of Janae Marks, Adriana Cuevas, and Crystal D. Giles. So this is set in 1989 during Operation Just Cause, which was a U.S. military invasion in Panama. So I'm super curious about this because I'm loving how many like more recent history that happened while I was alive but unaware of it happening, you know? So I'm really curious about this one. This is another middle grade. So I'm always trying to keep up with like interesting middle grade historical fiction. On the 28th of January, we have I Am Not Jessica Chen by Anne Lang. I am so curious about this book. This is, I think, YA. And it says, Jenna Chen has spent her whole life in the shadow of her flawless cousin. Jessica Chen is so smart, she gets the top score on every test. Jessica Chen is so beautiful that people stop in the hallway to stare at her. Jessica Chen is so perfect, she got into Harvard. And Jenna Chen will only ever be a disappointment. So when Jenna makes a desperate wish to become her cousin, the last thing she expects is for that to come true. Literally, All of a sudden, she gets to live the life she's always dreamed of, but being the model student at a cutthroat Havenwood private academy isn't quite what she'd imagined. Worse, people seem to be forgetting that someone named Jenna Chen even existed. But isn't it worth trading it all away? Her artistic talent, her childhood home, even the hope of golden boy Aaron Kai loving her back, if she gets to be Jessica Chen? I'm so curious about this book. It sounds amazing. This is not an author I've read, so I haven't pre-ordered it, but like I really want to. I'm hoping my library will have it. But I'm super curious about it. And then the last book that's out in January that I want to tell you about is The Lotus Shoes. This is by Jane Yang. This is an empowering, uplifting tale of two women from opposite sides of society and their extraordinary journey of sisterhood, betrayal, love, and triumph. It's set in 1800s China. So we're doing the whole bound foot thing. It says, tightly bound feet or golden lilies are the mark of an honorable woman, eclipsing beauty, a rich dowry, and even bloodline in the name of marriage stakes. So when Little Flower is sold as a maidservant to Lin Jing, a daughter of the prominent Fang family, she clings to the hope that one day her golden lilies will lead her out of slavery. Not only does Little Flower have bound feet, uncommon for a maidservant, but she is extraordinarily gifted at embroidery, a skill associated with the highest class of a lady. Resentful of her talents, Lin Jing does everything in her power to thwart Little Flower's escape. But when scandal strikes the Fangs, both women are cast out to the celibate sisterhood, where Little Flower's artistic prowess catches the eye of a nobleman. His attention threatens not only her improved status, but her life. The sisterhood punishes disobedience with death. If Lin Jing finds out, will she sabotage Little Flower to reclaim her power, or will she protect her? I will read almost anything if it's set in this time and place. I'm fascinated with historical China. I've been really weirdly, morbidly fascinated by the whole concept of bound feet since I was a child. So when I saw Lotus Shoes as the title, I was like, ooh, tell me more. So that one sounds really interesting. Let's move on to February. There are a whole lot of books out on February 4th. So let's start with Junie by Erin Crosby Eckstein. This is one that I have access to. I have the ARC from NetGalley. And this is, I think, YA. It says it's about a young girl who must face a life-altering decision after awakening her sister's ghost, navigating truths about love, friendship, and power as the Civil War looms. So we're in the antebellum South. We're following a 16-year-old girl who has been enslaved since she was born and has always lived at the Bellarine Plantation in Alabama. And she helps to tend to the master's daughter, Violet. But when wealthy guests come from New Orleans, hinting at marriage for Violet and upending Junie's life, she commits a desperate act, one that rouses her sister Minnie's spirit from the grave, tethered to the world unless Junie can free her. So it sounds really interesting. It's sort of a ghost story, but it's set during the period of time right before the Civil War. So it's like a historical fantasy, I guess. I'm here for it though, because I love reading historical fantasy. So I'm very much looking forward to reading that. Also out on February 4th, we have Harlem Rhapsody. This is one that really caught my eye. That title is great. The cover, I'm so curious about this book. It says it's a page turner and history lesson at once. Harlem Rhapsody reminds us that our stories are our generational wealth. So this is set in 1919. A high school teacher from Washington, D.C. arrives in Harlem excited to realize her lifelong dream. Jessie Redmond Fawcett has been named the literary editor of The Crisis, the first Black woman to hold this position at a preeminent Negro magazine. Jessie is poised to achieve literary greatness, but she holds a secret that jeopardizes it all. W.E.B. Du Bois, the founder of The Crisis, is not only Jessie's boss, but he is also her lover. and neither his wife nor their 14-year-old age difference can keep the two apart. Amidst rumors of the tumultuous affair, Jessie is determined to prove herself. She attacks the challenge of discovering young writers with fervor, finding 16-year-old County Cullen, 17-year-old Langston Hughes, and Nella Larson, who becomes one of her best friends. Under Jessie's leadership, the crisis thrives. Every African-American writer in the country wants their work published here. When her first novel is released to great acclaim, it is clear that Jessie is at the heart of a renaissance in Black music, theater, and the arts. She has shaped a generation of literary legends, but as she strives to preserve her legacy, she'll discover the high cost of unparalleled excess. Doesn't this sound awesome? Oh, I'm so excited to read that. I think this is going to be one of those books that everyone's talking about. That's just what I think. Anyway, I don't know. I'm always wrong. I always pick the wrong books. I'm never on top of the It book. Also out on the 4th is Mutual Interest. This is by Olivia Wolfgang Smith. It says a classic in the making, a mesmerizing novel about marriage and ambition, sexuality and secrecy, and the true cost of building an empire. I have the arc for this one. I'm really curious about it. It says, at the turn of the 20th century, Vivienne L'Espérance is determined to flee her origins in Utica, New York, and avoid repeating her parents' dull, limited life. When she meets Oscar Schmidt, a middle manager at a soap company, Vivienne finds a partner she can guide to build the life she wants, not least because, more interested in men himself, Oscar will leave Vivienne to tend to her own romances with women. But Vivienne's plans require capital, so the two pair up with Squire Clancy, scion of an old American fortune. Together they found Clancy and Schmidt, a preeminent manufacturer of soap, perfume, and candles. When Oscar and Squire fall in love, the trio form a new kind of partnership. Vivienne reaches the pinnacle of her power, building Clancy and Schmidt into an empire of personal care products while operating behind the image of both men. But exposure threatens, and all three partners are made aware of how much they have to lose. This sounds so interesting. So it's like a story of queer romance and empire and power. I read, what is it called? Lavender House, I think, earlier this year, and I really thought it was interesting, but it was more focused on a murder mystery. But what I wanted more of was the fact that it was this couple who were married so that they could live out their queer relationships behind the veil of their marriage, and they were also running this empire based on soaps and things, I think. And so I wanted that story as opposed to the weird murder mystery that I got. This sounds like it's going to be exactly what I was looking for in that book. So I feel like this is going to be another one that I just really end up falling in love with, I think. So I'm very curious about it. Also out on February 4th is another one of my most anticipated releases. I have the arc for this. I just have to fight myself to read with my eyes. But I feel like I'll be able to do it because this is a book that I'm so curious about. This is Neal Shusterman's newest book. So if you follow me for any amount of time, you know that he's one of my favorite authors. And his books have been hit or miss for me. His last few that have come out, I did not love his last one. What was it called? Roxy? I did not love that at all. I DNF'd it. So I really want this to be good. I need this to be great. This says it is about a deadly and unprecedented virus. But those who survive it experience long-term effects no one has ever seen before. Utter contentment. Soon after infection, people find that their stress, depression, greed, and other negative feelings that used to weigh them down are just gone. More and more people are beginning to revel in this mass unburdening, but not everyone. People in power who depend on malcontents and who prey on the insecure to sell their products and convince others that they need more, new, faster, better, everything, know that this new state of being is bad for business. Surely, without anger or jealousy as motivators, productivity will grind to a halt and the world will be thrown into chaos. Campaigns start up to convince people that being eternally happy is dangerous. The race to find a vaccine begins. Meanwhile, a growing movement of recoveries plan ways to spread the virus as fast as they can in the name of saving the world. It's nearly impossible to determine the truth when everyone with a platform is pushing their own agenda. 3 teens from very different backgrounds who've had their lives upended in very different ways all find themselves at the center of a power play that could change humanity forever. I'm so excited to read this. I think it's going to be great. I feel like this has the potential to be on par with Scythe, so I'm very much looking forward to that. Okay, this next one, I really don't know what it's about at all. I think this is actually not a new book, but just a reissue. But it's a new TJ Klune, so I pre-ordered it, because of course I did. It's called The Bones Beneath My Skin, and it just says it's a spine-tingling standalone novel by best-selling author TJ Klune, a supernatural road trip thriller featuring an extraordinary young girl and her 2 unlikely protectors on the run from cultists and the government. Frankly, that's all I need. I feel like all of his books sound so interesting, and I really don't want to read the synopsis, so I'm not gonna. But if you want to go check that out, you can. But I just feel like it's gonna be good. Like, his books tend to be really cozy reads. Also out on the 4th, like I said, there's a lot. We have All the Blues in the Sky by Renee Watson. This is middle grade, but I think this is going to be like that upper end of middle grade, so like 12 to 14 or so, somewhere in there. We're following Sage, whose 13th birthday was supposed to be about movies and treats, staying up late with her best friend and watching the sunrise together, but instead, it was the day her best friend died. Without the person she has to hold her secrets and dream with, Sage is lost. In a counseling group with other girls who have lost someone close to them, she learns not all losses are the same, and healing isn't predictable. There is sadness, loneliness, anxiety, guilt, pain, and love. And even as Sage grieves, new good things enter her life, and she just may find a way to know that she can feel all of it. So it says, in accessible and engaging verse and prose, this is a story of a girl's journey to heal, grow, and forgive herself. To read it is to see how many shades there are in grief and to know that someone understands. I'm looking forward to this. I love stuff like that. I love hard-hitting middle grade, but I also just love beautiful writing, and I feel like this is going to be both of those things. So I'm looking forward to reading that. The last book out on the 4th is one that I have an arc for, but I'm so unsure of. But I'm going to tell you about it because I do have the arc, and I'm going to try to read it. This is Under the Same Stars by Libba Bray. I do not have a good history with this author. I feel like I've tried to read her books several times, and I just can't get into her writing. But this one sounded so interesting that I just went, you know what, I'm going to give it one more shot. We're going to try one more time. Maybe this is the one. Maybe this will be the book. This is a groundbreaking young adult historical mystery examining truth, rebellion, reconciliation, and what must be sacrificed for a better world. This is set in 3 time periods. So we're in 1940s Germany following Sophie, who is excited to discover a message waiting for her in the bridegroom's oak from a mysterious suitor. Meanwhile, her best friend Hannah is sending messages too, but not to find love. As World War II unfolds in their small town of Kleinwald, the oak may hold the key to resistance against the Nazis. And then in 1980s, we're in West Germany. An American teen transplant, Jenny, feels suffocated by her strict parents and is struggling to fit in, until she finds herself falling for Lena, a punk rock girl hell-bent on tearing down the wall separating West Germany from East Germany, and meeting Frau Hermann, a kind old lady with secrets of her own. And then we're in spring 2020 in New York City, where best friends Miles and Chloe are in the first weeks of COVID lockdown and hating Zoom school when an unexpected package from Chloe's grandmother leads them to investigate a cold case about 2 identified teenagers who went missing under the bridegroom's oak 80 years ago. I love a story that is set in multiple timelines that all connect together in some way. This sounds so promising. I really want it to not be bad. Like, I really want to love this book. Like, I feel in my bones like it has potential. So So I'm gonna try my best to read this, and I'll let you guys know what I think. But I want it to be good. It's getting dark in here. The light is failing. A little bit better lighting. Okay, so now we're moving on to February 11th. So the first one I want to talk about is called What Fell from the Sky by Adriana Cuevas. And this is a middle grade that says it is a out-of-this-world middle grade adventure based on true historical facts, perfect for fans of The Goonies and Stranger Things. So this sounds great. So we're following a character named Pineda who wants to get through the school year and pull an epic prank or two with his friends, Junior, Ernesto, and Patsy. But class is disrupted when a slew of American soldiers descend on their rural Texas town of Soledad. They'll be carrying out a training exercise and taking over everything, from their school to the local government. But Pineda knows why they're really here. For days, he has hidden the strange creature who fell from the sky in his parents' barn. He promised her he'd find her family and help them return home, but with soldiers now on every street corner and armed checkpoints across every road, reuniting his new friend with her missing parents seems an impossible task, especially when they realize that the Army's presence is really a cover-up for capturing his alien friends, being observed in a laboratory by the U.S. government for reasons of their own. So this feels very much like Stranger Things, and like we're following a character who's hiding an alien, and people are there to look for that alien, so I'm very curious about it. And then we have Away by Megan E. Freeman out on the 11th as well. This is a, I don't know if it's a sequel. I think this is a companion novel to the book Alone by Megan E. Freeman. So if you've read that, then you might want to read this. It's a group of children investigate the threat that prompted a large-scale evacuation in this powerful and dramatic companion novel to the bestseller Alone, told in multiple POVs. So I've had Alone on my shelves for ages and I haven't read it yet. So when I saw a companion novel was going to be out, I was like, oh good, gives me a reason to pick this up. So I'm going to try to read both of them this year. Will I? I don't know. Maybe. Okay, then out on February 18th, we have Racing the Clouds. This is another middle grade. And I am obsessed with this cover. I just think the colors are gorgeous. And it says, if 13-year-old Sage has done one thing differently that day last November, then everything would be fine. Only she didn't. So she and her dad had to leave Philadelphia for a new life in middle of nowhere, Virginia. Her dad has never actually said that he blames her for what happened, but how could he not? Sage is determined to push it all out of her mind, but then, just before summer vacation, she hears from the grandparents she has never met. They want her to visit, and she realizes this could be her chance to mend the rift that's kept everybody apart. When she meets grandmother Marion, Sage is sure her trip is headed for disaster, except she wasn't counting on making a new friend or rescuing a sweet stray dog. And with them by her side, maybe she can find the courage to face what she has been avoiding all along. I love stories about things like this where you have like something has gone wrong and the characters know what it is and are dealing with the ramifications of it, but you, over the course of the story, start to slowly unfold what that thing was. And I feel like that's what this is going to be. So I'm super intrigued. I have an arc for this, and I cannot wait to pick it up. Then out on February 25th, we have The Other March Sisters. I haven't decided how I feel about this book yet. I will read it. I feel like I'm going to probably like it, but I don't always enjoy things that take a favorite story and like change it in some way. So, because there was another book that came out a few years ago that was based on on Little Women, but it was like if Little Women was set during World War II, and I did not enjoy that. This one is giving the Little Women characters, Beth, Meg, and Amy, a better story, I guess. It says that they're being pulled out from behind the shadow of Joe. So the story is set in the period of time when Joe is in New York. and we're going to follow the other sisters in their lives while they're still at home. So I'm very curious. It's written by 3 different authors, so I assume they're each taking a character. So we're not going to be reading from Jo and her story at all. We're following just Beth, Amy, and Meg. I'm curious about it, but I don't know how I'm going to feel about it. So this is what I'm going to try to get at the library, because I don't know that I want to invest money in a book that I'm probably not going to like. But I might like it because Little Women is a favorite book for me. Also out on the 25th is one that I'm very excited about. I haven't gotten my hands on the ARC yet, but my fingers are crossed that I will in fact be able to read the ARC. But it's Max in the Land of Lies. This is by Adam Gidwitz, and it is the sequel to Operation Kinderspien. This is his duology. I read Max in the House of Spies earlier this year, and I loved it. I thought it was so good. World War II has been done and overdone, I think, but every now and then a book will come out that's set in World War II that I think does something just different enough to set it apart. And so this is a book about a boy who is sent to England on the Kindertransport from Germany. And he was rescued by an English family who take him in and raise him in England so that he can survive the war. He's Jewish. And all he wants to do is get back to Germany because he's very upset and worried about his parents. And so he decides, once he finds out that the people he's living with are working as spies, that he will become a spy so that he can go back. And so we're following a character who's a boy. He's like 12, and they're putting him through the rigorous tests and all the stuff he has to do to become a spy. And it ends on a cliffhanger. And I just desperately need to know what happens next. This was so good. It's got a little bit of a magical element to it because he has like these 2 little mythical beings kind of on his shoulder, whispering things, talking to him, trying to lead him into doing what he needs to do as opposed to what he wants to do. So, yeah, I just really want to read this. I feel like it's going to be really good. I need to know. I need to know how it ends. I need to know Max will be okay. Okay, and then another book that's out on the 25th is The Secret History of Audrey James by Heather Marshall. Yeah, I read Looking for Jane when that came out, I think in 2023, and really liked that a lot. So I saw she has a new book out this year. It says, an astonishing historical novel of one woman's dangerous journey through World War II Germany and her life-changing friendship with a young woman decades later. So I think we're in 2 timelines again. We have Northern England in 2010 and Berlin in 1938, inspired by true stories of courageous women and the German resistance during World War II. The Secret History of Audrey James is a captivating novel about the unbreakable bonds of friendship, the sacrifices we make for those we love, and the healing that comes from human connection. Love stories about people learning about their past history, their family history, that sort of thing, or like uncovering something. Love stories about resistance. So I think this is going to be a good story. I'm looking forward to reading that. And then the last book out in February that I want to talk about is The Lost Passenger by Frances Quinn. This is an immersive historical drama about a young mother who starts a new life with her son in New York after faking their death on the Titanic. That tagline got me, and I was just like, okay, wait, you have to tell me more. I need to read this. So sometimes it takes a disaster to change your life. I think that sounds really intriguing. I don't really know anything about this author, though. I don't think I've ever read anything by Frances Quinn. Literally, I saw that tag, and I was just like, tell me more. And I was just like very curious about that book. And I don't really want to read. Listen, every now and then a book, I just don't want to know. I don't need more than that. I just want to like read a historical drama about someone faking their death on the Titanic so they can start over. So I don't know. I just think this could be really interesting. Let's move on now to March. There are not as many things to talk about for March. First up, on March 4th, we have Right Back at You by Carolyn Mackler. I have the arc for this. This one just sounded interesting to me. It says, it's a story about reaching across time to find the support you need against bullies, bad friends, and anti-Semitism. Mason lives in 2023. His parents have just split up, and there is a guy at school who won't get off his case. As part of an assignment, he writes a letter to Albert Einstein, and it ends up getting a little too personal. He throws the letter into his closet, and the next day, he gets a letter back from a girl named Talia, who lives in 1987. She has problems of her own, including classmates who make jokes because she is Jewish. She thought her friends would have her back, but it ends up the only person she really has to talk to is a random boy in the future. So it says it's similar to When You Reach Me and Save Me a Seat, and it's a funny, all too relatable story about finding the friend you need, even if that friend happens to live in a different year from you. I'm so curious about this one. It sounds like it's going to be delightful. I saw Georgia Hunter has a new book out, and yes, please. We Were the Lucky Ones. It was one of my absolute favorite books I read this year, so I definitely want to read more by this author. And so her new book is called One Good Thing. Okay, so it's set in 1940. Lily and Esty have been best friends since meeting at the University of Ferrara. When Esty's son Theo is born, they become as close as sisters. There is war being fought across borders, and in Italy, Mussolini's racial laws have deemed Lily and Esty descendants of an inferior Jewish race. But life somehow goes on until Germany invades northern Italy, and the friends find themselves in occupied territory. I'm really curious to read this, one, because it's an author that I definitely want to read more from, but also I haven't read very many things set in Italy during World War II, so I will definitely be picking this up. Okay, so on the 11th we have The Antidote by Karen Russell. This is by the author of Swamplandia. I don't know anything about this author. I've never read that. I don't know what this author's books are like, but this caught my eye because it's a gripping Dust Bowl epic about 5 characters whose fates become entangled after a storm ravages their small Nebraska town. So The Antidote opens on Black Sunday as a historic dust storm ravages the fictional town of Uz, Nebraska. But Uz is already collapsing, not just under the weight of the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl drought, but beneath its own violent histories. It's following a prairie witch whose body serves as a bank vault for people's memories and secrets, a Polish wheat farmer who learns how quickly a hoarded blessing can become a curse, his orphan niece, a basketball star in Witch's Apprentice, in furious flight from her grief, a voluble scarecrow, and a New Deal photographer whose time-traveling camera threatens to reveal both the town's secrets and its fate. I have the arc for this. I just thought the premise of this book sounded so interesting. I don't even know what I'm going to be getting into, but I'm very curious about it. Then, also out on the 11th is The Filling Station. This is by Vanessa Miller, and this one is set during the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. So we're following 2 sisters, one unassuming haven, and endless opportunities for grace. So honestly, they had me at 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. I was very curious to read more about that event. Like, I've read about it quite a bit, but I do want to read a historical fiction set during this time. And so I definitely want to read that. Again, don't really know this author, but I do have the arc for this. There's a new History Smashers out that I got the arc for, and I was excited for that. I love History Smashers. I feel like Kate Messner does a really great job of breaking down a historical event from lots of different angles and giving a really broad but like focused history. This one is about Earth Day and the environment. So it's set in 1970 when Earth Day became a holiday. And so it's all about how that came about. So definitely want to check that out. Then, oh my gosh, you guys, on March 18th, John Green's new book comes out. Everything is Tuberculosis. I'm so excited to read this that I pre-ordered a hardcover book that is signed, and I pre-ordered the audiobook from Libro FM. So I'm going to be reading this and listening to it. I'm pretty sure he narrates the audiobook. I loved the Anthropocene reviewed so much. Like, that was beautiful. And I was like, I hope he writes more things like that, because I've never been a big fan of his fiction. But I love John Green and his work. And so when I knew he was writing about tuberculosis, I got really excited. So I am so excited to learn so much about tuberculosis. So I'm going to be reading that. I cannot wait. Then the other book that I am the most excited about is the new Hunger Games that comes out on March 18th. Sunrise on the Reaping. I'm beyond excited. This is the book I wanted, but we got that Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes that I did not enjoy. This is what I wanted, though. This is the book. This is the Haymitch book. We're going to get to go to Haymitch's games. Yes, that is all I could ask for, honestly. I want to know more about Haymitch's games, so I can't wait to read this. I've already blocked out, like, we're going to read this for our read aloud for school because I just know Regina's going to want to read it too, so we're going to be reading this together, and I cannot wait. Okay, the last book I want to talk about, one more, is The Hymn to Dionysus. This is by Natasha Pulley, another author I've never read from before. Don't really know anything about them, but this book cover is so pretty. This is another Greek mythology reimagining. In this one, we're following the Greek god Dionysus. So I mean, like I said, I love I love mythology in general, and I will always try to pick up mythology retellings and reimaginings. Sometimes they are my favorite books, and sometimes they don't work for me at all. So I don't know which one this is going to be, but I will hopefully be checking that out. So those are all the things on my radar anyway this winter. I'm gonna be like just delving in to all the books. I just want to read. I just want to read and ignore everything happening elsewhere so that I can just like live in my little world and not be so stressed out. So I'm going to be doing a lot of reading this year, as always. That's what I do anyway. But anyway, so excited about reading all the things. Let me know down below in the comments what you are most looking forward to reading this year as far as new releases go. And I will see you guys in my next video. Happy reading. Bye.